The Detroit Lions defeat the Green Bay Packers 20-16 on Sunday Night Football. The Lions finished second in the NFC North at 9-8. Packers finished third at 8-9. A little bit of a back and forth game here. And then the Lions, you just mentioned it earlier, they went for it late, man. They went for it. They not only, there's a lot of plays that made this game, but they had a 4-point lead, which they finished with, a 4-point lead, a 4th and 1, and they went for it. They went empty and went for it. And all they needed to do was convert to seal the deal, and they did it. And I made the point. This was like a minute 20 left in the game when they did this. This was an automatic field goal in the NFL 4 or 5 years ago, right? So there was a play earlier in this game where the Packers go for it on 4th and inches in their own territory, and they don't get it with the jet sweep, gets blown up. And Rodgers easily could have snuck it for an automatic first down. And, of course, everybody's like, oh, this is so stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And it's like, I think people are forgetting that if you watch enough football, teams are going for it on 4th and inches in their own territory all the time right now. When they get it, you don't think about it. When they don't get it, it's like the dumbest decision in the world. But the decision that Dan Campbell made to go for 4th and 1, up 4, with a pretty easy field goal on the table to make it a 7-point lead, that was the standard play 4 or 5 years ago in the NFL. Kick the field goal. So I thought that was genius. That was a great play. The play leading up to it with the hook and ladder to
2nd and 17.
Set it up. I'll let you come back to that in a second. And there was one other thing that happened. The Lions are running out the clock. They get a 9-yard run on 1st and 10. They're right on the cusp where the Packers have to use all their timeouts, and there was one series left. And on 2nd and 1, we've seen Vrabel's Titans do this and everything. The defense jumps, you jump off sides on purpose. You want to give the offense the fresh set of downs, right? Because if on 2nd and 1, they're probably going to convert, they're going to steal more time. Dan Campbell and the Lions decline the penalty, which earns them an extra play. They convert the first down the next play. It earns an extra play there, and that helped keep the clock moving. There was a lot of really, really good things that the Lions did down the stretch here, including 4th and 1. They go for it. One play away from the win, and they got it.
Yeah, smart game, smart clock management aside from anything else. But that play, the 4th and 1, was obviously a gutsy call, albeit a gutsy call with nothing to lose. But the 2nd and 17 play was, I think, far more impressive to me. Like 2nd and 7 from Green Bay's 21. They get a couple of yards, but there's a holding call. So now it's 2nd and 17. Again, in the sort of traditional, what does the NFL usually do at this point? 2nd and 17 with a 4-point lead, with time winding down. You just got a holding call. Now you're giving up. Like now you just dive up the middle for nothing. You're essentially sacrificing that drive, right? The Lions went, no, we're going to run a hook and lateral play to try and pick up the extra yardage, and then they get most of that back, right? They get a ton of that yardage back. Now it's 3rd and 3. They get a couple of yards, and that sets up the 4th and 1 play where they eventually go for it. But that was a gutsy call. Again, the kind of gutsy call that the Rams didn't make, where they gave up on the 4th and 2. But yeah, Detroit, they earned that win. Shame they didn't. The guy that bet us that the Lions would execute the comeback, at the point where they were buried. Like both Detroit and Green Bay dragged themselves back from the absolute brink of elimination to get all the way back, and then each of them managed to trip themselves up on one hurdle. Like the Lions did it a couple of weeks ago, where they gave up 320 rushing yards to Carolina, and obviously Green Bay did it last night, where they capitulate against Detroit. But that's such an incredible season, where both those two teams were essentially, I think the Packers were down to 6% probability to make the playoffs at one point in the season, got themselves all the way back to being favorites for it like yesterday. Like they were 60% favorites or something to make the playoffs out of those three teams, and ended up not getting it done. Detroit, I think, were all the way down to like 1%. They were single digits as well, dragged themselves all the way back to, again, they were a 1-point favorite to that wild card spot. And then an absolute joke of a run defense game against Carolina torpedoes their season as well. But just such a weird year for those two teams.
It was. Even just the game, man, it looked like we've always joked about Jared Goff and his hand size. Oh, he's got 9-inch hands. It affects him in the weather. His first few throws were absolute ducks. And then he kept bouncing the ball and everything. It's like, man, Goff might not be able to complete a pass in this game.
Why was he throwing at the ground every 2 minutes?
It was almost like every time he had to reset or whatever, he just couldn't get anything on it. But he still hits a long 43-yarder to Khalif Raymond on a bomb. They had a negated touchdown. There was a point in the game where like the biggest impact plays were penalties. There was a 40-plus yard pass interference that the Packers earned. There was a however long that touchdown was to Jameson Williams taken off the board because of a hold. These were the right calls, by the way, but it was like those were significant plays in the game. But the Lions were really resilient. Jamal Williams, once he gets into that tight red zone, he does have a nose for the end zone. He's got those 2 touchdowns to break Barry Sanders' record. Goff did make enough good throws down the stretch. Amon-Ra St. Brown with some beautiful catches that didn't catch with his hands. There's a couple of those in this game. So I want to give a ton of credit to the Lions. I thought their defense played so much better down the stretch. They made a few big plays just in the run game and everything. They did a pretty good job bottling up Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I want to give a ton of credit to the Lions. I haven't made many predictions correctly this year.
True.
The one thing that I said, even though I picked the Packers to cover, I did say that the Lions would play hard, even if they played hard, right? They played this game to win, to ruin their rivals' season, and they did it. And I think this entire offseason, you're going to talk about the Lions and their future, right? And they're picking, 6th in the draft. They've got the 2 first-rounders once again, and they're just arrow pointed up, man.
Yeah.
In Detroit.
It was a game where I think it didn't cost them. Obviously, they won the game, but they have been dealing with this problematic interior offensive line for most of the season when it comes to pass protection. Like, they've had a revolving door at guards. Frank Ragnow has been injured all year and battling through it. All 3 of those guys in the interior had pretty rough games in pass protection, and there were a bunch of plays where the Packers' defensive front, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt had a big play in there as well, where they just wrecked those guys and caused all kinds of problems. On the flip side, you had Aiden Hutchinson beating up on Josh Nijman to the point where Nijman gets benched. Zach Tom comes in. Zach Tom played this season, rookie, low-round guy. He started in place of David Bakhtiari first at the start of the year, where Bakhtiari was coming back from the knee injury. Actually, he didn't start at the start of the year, did he? Somebody else did. But then he replaced him when Bakhtiari got his appendectomy, where he got appendicitis and had to miss a few weeks. Zach Tom came in and played really well, gave up only a couple of pressures playing left tackle for those few games. He ends up coming in playing right tackle in this game, and it didn't go particularly well. Like, he gave up a bunch of pressure, had a pass blocking grade of 26 or whatever. So this was a weird game for both teams struggling at a couple of key areas on the offensive line and pass protection.
All right, now let's talk Packers perspective here. Aaron Rodgers and everything that happened in this game. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 passes directly to Kirby Joseph. In the last game, he already was intercepted by Kirby Joseph twice. It was truly unbelievable.
It's genuinely like Aaron Rodgers can't see Kirby Joseph.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Rodgers finishes the game with 3 turnover-worthy plays. One was a dropped interception by Kirby Joseph. There was another actual interception by Kirby Joseph where, again, he just pretty much threw it right to him. It was negated by hands to the face penalty for the Lions. Again, it was the right call, but there was a point where Lions fans are watching this entire day of action, and it's like literally everything that we do is, getting negated by penalty. Everything that we do well, the Seahawks game, nothing's going right from a call standpoint. But then the Lions make the comeback, and Rodgers has a chance to make the fourth quarter comeback. Ball's in Aaron Rodgers' hands in the fourth quarter, needing a touchdown, down 4, and season on the line. Lions blitz. Rodgers knows the blitz is coming. He knows he's going to take a hit, and he throws another one to Kirby Joseph. An interception, 3rd turnover-worthy play, 3rd ball that hits Kirby Joseph in the hands, 1st one that actually counts, and that's pretty much it. That's the Packers season. Rodgers didn't get the ball back at all, and that was it. Packers season over. They fall to 8-9. Lions win 20-16, and all the questions, right? Everyone trying to figure out what's Aaron Rodgers thinking. Jameson Williams, the rookie receiver for the Lions, went up to Aaron Rodgers asking for his jersey. Aaron said, "No, I'm going to hold on to this." I had a little chuckle as my Twitter timeline was watching Aaron Rodgers after the game, trying to figure out what's in Aaron Rodgers' head. What's he thinking right now? Let's psychoanalyze Aaron Rodgers and tell you what he's thinking right now. He's soaking it up. He's doing this. He's doing that. It's like you're trying to predict what Aaron Rodgers is thinking right now. That's a little ridiculous. The Twitter timeline. But yeah, he did sit there and looked a little stunned. Whether it's him reflecting on the season, his career, walked off the field with Randall Cobb with their arms around each other. It could be the end of Randall Cobb's career. There it is, the Rodgers and Cobb walking off together after the game. So it was a tough scene in Green Bay at the end of the game.
Yeah. Who knows, trying to predict what these types of quarterbacks are going to do. It doesn't feel like the kind of game you want to go out on. Just a failure at the final hurdle to even get into the playoffs. I don't know. Who knows? But doesn't feel like the way Rodgers would want to go out. Particularly with, you've been making the point Detroit's arrow is pointing up. I mean, the way Christian Watson came on late in the year, like you can make the argument that Green Bay is headed in the right direction as well, albeit not quite quick enough.
I got the feeling throughout the entire season that Rodgers, the more the season went on, the more I expected him to come back to Green Bay. And when you have Watson, I mean, Romeo Doubs had a rough game in this one. All of that preseason hype may have been a little bit too much, but Watson picked up the hype, right? I mean, Watson looks like a dude who could score 15 touchdowns and average 17 per catch next year and all this stuff. I mean, it does feel like Rodgers doesn't want to go out like this. He's still physically capable. I don't understand why he had as many turnover-worthy plays as he did this year compared to previous years. He was just off on a bunch of throws this year, again, compared to previous years. But you could also make the argument that a big part of the production difference in Green Bay was just not having Devontae Adams. I mean, it could just be that simple. Losing Adams and having to go through all the growing pains. I could see Aaron Rodgers coming back. But, tough season in Green Bay. And after that late push, as you said, from the dead, and they just they couldn't do it at the end.